So I got my prompt. Oh, UPS truck there. I was saying it's powered by natural gas and stuff. So, renewable energy, right? That's a topic that everyone is talking about nowadays. And, I'm not one to deny you your perceived reality as long as it's consistent, right? But at the same time, there is an underlying collective that we must at least pretend to take care of, right? Whether or not you're individualists or not, because, even from an individualist perspective, damaging the whole damages the self because the self is a part of the whole. Now, when we're considering, and I also have 82%, so I have enough battery to do a decent walk. When we're considering the impact of our not just carbon footprint, right? We talk about climate change like it's solely about carbon and making the hurricanes worse. And once again, my channel is from 2010, and I've been doing meteorology stuff since I was 4 years old, right? But I looked at the hurricane data, right? I've looked at hurricane data, open hurricane data. I mean, real hardcore stuff, not just the stuff that's on the main NHC site, right? I'm talking about like real hardcore data science stuff. I've looked at the data, and the hurricanes aren't really getting worse. Like, what we can see as getting worse is us just having more data, the ability to collect more data on it, right? We couldn't really accurately collect accumulated cyclone energy back in the 1950s when we first started really collecting this data, right? So it really depends on what metric you're using to say that your hurricanes are worse. In my opinion, the hurricanes are getting worse because they are aiming better in that sense. But climate change doesn't really stop at hurricanes, right? You got your microplastics, you got your there is more carbon in the atmosphere, right? When we're talking about climate change getting worse, we're not just talking about El Nino, La Nina, and all of the climatological effects, right? We're also talking about sorry, when my mom's on say hi to me. So climatological effects of fossil fuel use, right? Burning fossil fuels. We're not just looking at our hurricanes getting worse, right? We're also looking at the global temperature anomalies. And I've been ranting about the sea surface temperature anomalies and the AMOC collapse for at least I saw it collapse last year, and I've been watching sea surface temperature anomalies for at least 6-7 years, every single hurricane season. I keep an eye on the weather. I'll just say that, even though I don't really talk about the weather as much, I keep an eye on it. But what ended up happening is that we have people that say there's no evidence for climate change because when you're looking at the data, you're not really sure what data you are looking at, right? And I will be honest, when you're looking at the data, it's not immediately clear what it's supposed to mean, right? When you're talking about um, the rate of change in the planet's warming, you're talking about 1 degree Celsius, right? You're talking about 1 degree Celsius. You're not talking about 10, 20, 30 degrees Celsius, which most people would, start worrying about, right? But there's no really conscious awareness of how the 1.5 degrees Celsius can of change. There's that documentary that traumatizes you. The 6 degrees could change the world. It's terrifying idea of how fragile our planet is to climate change, and anyone that understands anything about chaos theory understands just how important it is that we're maintaining our climate. And so when it comes to renewable energy, right, you're asking yourself, well, what are our options at this? And I understand, why electric vehicles aren't an option for everyone. Look at Tesla, for example. Their cars are not safe. They're just flat out not safe. That idiot cuts corners, makes sure, whatever. That we're not considering Teslas right now. That's its own absolutely screwed up bullshit. But my point is, ooh, a crane. My point is that renewable energies, we should be looking for power sources that aren't like lithium and whatnot. People are still scared of hydrogen, right? But in temperature's warming up too much. In this day and age, we should be looking towards power sources like hydrogen hybrid renewables, like hydrosolar energy, where you power your car. You power your car with water, right? And you're using the sun, and you're using the sun and a battery to electrolyze the water to very efficiently translate the sun's energy into hydrogen and oxygen through electrolysis. And I know electrolysis isn't that efficient. They're going off. Mom, my mom's friend. But so there would need to be more research on how this would scale, right? Because electrolysis doesn't really scale that easily, right? But I'm sure with proper technology and proper research, right, you can get it to be as efficient as you can. Definitely more than solar, at least. Still think we're around 23%, if I'm not mistaken, 23% efficiency. 23% efficiency. Don't we seem to go out and I hope we go out. But with that 23% efficiency, right? You're still not able to really get your cars to where they need to go. A long distance. But when you're talking about data centers, for example, we're not just talking about scaling from. We're not just talking about scaling sorry, from toys to from toys and calculators to cars. We're talking about from toys and calculators to cars to data centers and other power sources. So power sources like nuclear energy and whatnot, now they're starting to be developed, but a while back, I used to think about it, small modular reactors. Thank you! But, I should have paused on this, but... with the small modular reactors, they're able to create not regionalization, zonalization of power source in a portable manner. If we are able to use power sources that are powerful, small, can provide megawatts of power, but otherwise sort of give us the ability to create power locally, right? Of course, it's sustainable for small neighborhoods and stuff, right? Especially during disaster recovery for like hurricanes and stuff, right? But the idea would be that we're at a critical point where we need to start considering alternative energies, right? Here in Florida, you're constantly thinking about solar, right? But you're also sometimes thinking about, what do they call it? They use they use the ocean currents to sort of power them, right? The ocean waves and whatnot. I think there are small power plants with that, but again, this is about sourcing as much energy as you can from localized resources. Geothermal is also a possibility. One form of energy I've seen, and it doesn't generate energy, but it's kind of like a battery, and it stores energy, and it's gravitational energy, where they use giant batteries of gravity, where they raise giant stones into these large gearwork mechanisms to sort of preserve the energy. And I think if we go back to this kind of non-obsession with solid state, right, we're kind of stuck in a solid state bottleneck where if we just sort of if we went back to user repairable parts and forgot the solids, when proprietary hurts everyone, makes everything more expensive, and in the long run it's not sustainable. But it's not sustainable. But when we're talking about the ability to be open and collaborate, right? Or be open and collaborate and still profit off of your technology. Now you're starting to talk about modular compatibility, right? And modularity is so important. Without modularity, you're not going to be able to understand how how allowing for compatibility, cross compatibility, is sustainability. And that's going to take some regulation, because companies like Crapple would never do stuff because they're interested in staying a cult instead of actually helping people. But I'm sure we'll figure out the energy prices. But at the end of the day, planets do exist. If you scale out cautionary tale planets, can and do exist as lessons for other civilizations to learn from. And Mars, I believe, is a good example of that. Now that's a whole conspiracy thing, but and microplastics are bad.